Good morning, stampers and crafters. Welcome to Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. I'm Tina. Today is our Team Stamp It Father's Day blog hop. So I came up with a technique I haven't done before, really. And of course I wanted to do a video on it. So today's technique is a faux wood burning technique. And it looks like our image is burned into wood. And it's a super fun technique. It's easy to do. So let's jump in and do it. So for our stamp sets today, we are going to use our Sailing Home. And I like the greeting in the Handsomely Suited set to one of the world's greatest dads. You can use the greetings in here, and you know, this technique would probably work really great even for this, to do these ties, but I really wanted a nautical theme for my husband, so we're gonna stick with the Sailing Home. So let's pull out our stamps, and I'm going to use the lighthouse. And we will get our greeting out. Okay, now I'm going to use the Stamparatus for this because we are going to be using our Early Espresso ink. And part of the trick to this, I learned, is that your ink's got to be nice and wet. So I've re-inked my pad. And I'm also going to use a Stamparatus in case I need to stamp it twice to get a nice ink. I don't think so because I just re-inked it. You're also going to need your aqua painter or a paintbrush and some water, and because that's how we're going to do the effect. I'm going to go ahead and use some very vanilla cardstock because that'll kind of give us more of that wood look. So let's put our cardstock in here. And I'm going to put my greeting there. And I'm going to put it up just a little bit because I want to add just a little bit of trim to this. You know, men's cards, we don't quite add as much bling bling to them. Let's get that all straightened in there. And you'll see in my Early Espresso, a lot of times I'll put because if you're doing any kind of watercolor or anything, you can put your drops of ink onto your block if you want and do it. Or you can just put it in the lid of your ink, because you can always just close it and smush it and put the ink back onto the pad, but it stays nice in there, so it's whatever you prefer there. I always have ink in the lids of my ink or my pads. So let's ink this up. Oh yeah, that's a nice juicy pad. I just re-inked it this morning. Make sure it's covered well. So I think since that pad's new, I may not have to stamp it twice. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do it. It's a little bit light, and I want to have plenty of ink on there to spread with my aqua painter. Just going to lightly stamp that again. Now I don't want to do it in here, so I'm going to pull it out. Set that aside. Bring in some scratch paper. Make sure my aqua painter is nice and wet. And then I'm just going to lightly go over the image. And you'll see where the water is going to kind of make it bleed and smear. That's what you're looking for there. And you want to stay going the same horizontal direction. All right, now I want to add, I'll go ahead and move in here a little bit for you, so maybe you can see a little better. I'm going to take and pick up a little bit of that color. I'm going to put plenty of water in here because I don't need a lot. And I'm just going to go lightly across to give us those streaks. You don't need a lot. You're just trying to give the different tones of wood color. Just picking up a very little bit of ink. I mean, start light because you got to remember this is a permanent ink. It's not like your watercoloring where you can, once it's hit the paper with watercolor paint, you can, lift some of the color out. With this permanent ink, you really can't. Once it hits the paper, it kind of does its thing. So I think we about got it here. And I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. Now, the embossing folder I'm going to use on this is retired at this time, but let me show you which one we're going to use. Well, let me see where. Remember the pine wood planks? You can use any wood grain you want. Or you can leave it just like this. It's going to look like wood grain even without the wood grain embossing. But with this just a little bit damp, it's okay to still put it in your embossing folder. When your papers are damp and you put them in your embossing folder, you actually get a deeper impression. But I forgot I wanted to add a couple of Seagulls to this. So let's grab our Seagulls. I'm just going to put them on a little block here. Ink it up. And since that paper is damp, it'll probably bleed them a little bit on their own. There we go. We got our Seagulls. And this has still got a little bit of water in it, so I'm just going to really lightly go over those little guys. Just to give them a little bit of blur. If you've ever done wood burning, depending on the type of wood that you do your wood burning, depends on how much it actually kind of bleeds out like that. I've only done wood burning a couple of times. It's a fun craft. Alright, now you know what? I'm going to hit this with the heat tool just a little bit. I don't want it quite that wet when I put it in the embossing folder. Okay. You notice when I heat things, you know how your card will kind of warp if it's wet? If you heat from both sides, it kind of helps keep that from, curling up more. It'll straighten it out a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I want to do this where my lines are in bed into the card, like regular wood. So you're going to want to use your face up on the side with the Stampin' Up! Logo. And like I said, you can use any embossing folder for this you want. And And I'm going to go run that through the machine real quick. Okay, and it just adds such a neat effect to it. You can barely see it. It's nice and subtle, but it really kind of changes it just a little bit. See the texture in there? Plus it flattens your card back out for you. Now what I wanted to use for ribbon is I'm going to use this faux suede trim. This is early espresso and it's faux suede. Let me bring this in. And I'm just going to do a couple of rows. So let's figure out what we need. This ribbon feels so neat. If you don't have it, it's really neat ribbon. I do a couple of lines of it here. What I do with my ribbon is I take my tape runner and I put my tape directly onto my ribbon. And that'll help it lay flat. Get my tape runner to work here. I just changed the refill in it, so it's kind of dragging a little bit. So let's lay our first one down. Go right there. See, it's a really quick card, but it's such a fun technique. I'm going to try, and I might put some up here on the blog post. I'm going to try doing this technique with some different colors and see how it comes out. What kind of effect it gets if you use different colors of ink and different colors of paper. I mean, it's not going to look as much like wood, I'm thinking, but it might turn out really fun. So I'm going to lay that one down. Oops. It's sticking to me more than it is my paper here. Now I'm going to take a little piece, and it only needs to be maybe that long. I'm going to grab my tweezers, and I'm going to tuck my ribbon under here. Let's see if I can tie a knot. You could do a bow here too, but like I said, I was trying to stay a little more masculine, not so foofy. I'll tie our knot. Again, since I haven't set that down yet, or glued it down, I can adjust this one ribbon a little. There we go. Look at that. Let's trim these off. Now I'm just going to glue that down onto a piece of early espresso. I'll have all the measurements down below for this. But as you can see, it's a pretty fast card. And when you have something that's a little warped like this, make sure you get the edges and the corners really well, and it'll hold your piece down square for you. And of course, like always, I like to use glue because I can adjust it. Glue that down. And then I'm just going to use a piece of very vanilla for the card base. And usually before I attach a card to my base and I know I'm going to put an image or a greeting inside, I do it before I attach my project to the base in case I mess up my stamping of my greeting or my inside image. That way, if I have to get a new card base, I haven't ruined the entire card. So I'm just going to put a little boat here. I'm just going to put it here in the corner. There we go. Came out perfect. And that ink is really wet, so I'm going to kind of dry that a little before I close it. And I'm just going to glue this directly down. And there you go. The whole thing is done. How quick and simple is that? It's got a fun little textured look and effect on it. I wish the camera would show this better because it's in person it's really neat because you can feel it. It feels like real wood. There you go. It is called Faux Wood Burning Technique. I believe there's a couple of tutorials out there. I had trouble. I think I found one that somebody did years ago. You can do it with all different types of images. This would look really good with some flowers. It's endless. It's another one of those techniques that's fun and quick and possibilities are endless. So that's it. I hope you keep on Blog Hop. Don't forget, leave a comment on each of the blog posts. It's all you have to do with the hashtag Stamp It contest, and you'll be entered to win a free prize that'll be drawn next month at our monthly Blog Hop. I hope you have a very happy stamping day. Bye-bye now.